So Emma, you successfully passed the yoga teacher training program with us a few years back. Were there any stages during the course where you felt, I want to give up here, I've had enough?
I didn't feel I wanted to give up, but I definitely felt out of my depth.
Yeah.
And I think specifically at the beginning of a lot of the philosophy went way over my head. And
like
also,
a lot of things do.
Yeah, absolutely. And also the anatomy.
Yeah.
Just with none of that background at all, even though I've danced before, just the names of stuff, it was hard for me to like get it into my head.
So what kind of inspired you, I guess? What got you through it? What was it?
Really focusing on like particular poses, but specifically the ones I felt were more interesting to myself, or the ones I felt difficult, and then thinking about what I needed to do to make the pose work, and then focusing on what those muscles were, and the anatomy within the pose really helped.
Okay, so
but that took a long time for me to get it into my head, way after I think I finished my teacher training.
Okay, so it's interesting. So rather than understanding anatomy and then trying to fit yoga poses in, you just looked at the yoga poses that you like and tried to understand the anatomy within those poses. Okay, it's an interesting approach.
So say for instance Marichi's, which I really like, I'm interested in, it's a lot easier for me to open the book and have a look at what I need, what is moving, what's stretching, what's twisting.
Okay, and then you can try to apply that same logic later.
Exactly, and then I felt that it actually went into my head that way. Okay. So that was quite helpful.
Okay. What kind of motivation did you need? Like, what got you through the TT emotionally? I mean, it could be the fact that you really wanted to teach. It could be that you're stubborn and you wanted to prove a point to me that you could pass, even though I probably told you you're going to fail loads of times.
Yeah, loads of times. I think I was quite nervous about having a voice to teach. I think that's one of the most scary things, and I wanted to try and prove to myself that I could actually do it, because I know that standing up and doing that first bit of teaching practice is horrendous. I was so nervous, couldn't get my words out, and then gradually the more you do it, it's quite satisfying to know that you can actually do it.
Yeah.
So that was to prove a point to myself, I think.
What was key in understanding your job as a teacher, what you're going to do? But to give you an example, for me it was just understanding that whatever I said, people were going to do. So the day I realised that everyone is kind of, I have them in the palm of my hand, but not in a rude or like an obnoxious way, you know what I mean? It's that I realised that
they're waiting for you to tell them what to do.
Exactly, so I didn't have to rush. I didn't have to read a dialogue. I could just take my time, and that really helped me way back in the day. Yeah,
that is helpful. I do remember you saying if you're getting stuck, just get everyone to breathe, to stand, to close their eyes while you kind of like recalibrate.
While you catch your breath.
While you catch your breath. But also I came to realise that I could only really explain it in terms of how I felt it. And once I knew that, I felt a lot more confident, because I could only really teach it in the way that I knew. Yeah,
absolutely. It is. That is.
I wasn't trying to like do it like someone else or what have you.
It's teaching them or communicating with the students what it is that you're doing and what you want them to do.
Yeah.
It's actually, teaching is so simple. I just think yoga teachers make it unnecessarily complicated, and I think as students, as yoga teacher trainee students, we forget sometimes that so and so has been teaching for so many years, and we try to be like them.
And they've kind of come to that stage going through lots of other things.
Exactly, they've arrived to that. It's like someone says to me, Zahir, how important is anatomy in yoga teaching? And the answer is I don't know, and I guess the reason I feel like that is because I've come to that conclusion through anatomy. But early days, I feel like it's a be-all end-all, because I need to ensure that I'm not putting people at risk. So you're right, a teacher that you might admire has come to that stage through all their learning and all their...
And you're basically never going to stay the same, are you? Because you're always going to learn different things, and your ideas about stuff's going to change as you go along.
And how was your anatomy quiz?
It was hard. I hated it.
No, don't say that.
It was hideous. No, it was good.
I'm glad you said that. But what did it?
No, it taught me loads of things, and I think
that was the purpose.
Yeah, but I've only realised that in hindsight now. At the time, I just felt like my brain was a mush, and I kind of got it all out in the anatomy quiz. But now there's stuff that crops up, and I think, aha, that's what all that was about.
So you understand.
Exactly, like the planes of movement and all that stuff. I'd never heard of that before. I was like, why do I need to know this? But now I can see how it fits in. So yeah, it's really useful.
Okay, great. And you passed with flying colours, if I remember.
Get me.
Well done. How much application was required from you? How much grit was needed? Or was it quite an effortless process?
It was quite an effortless process for me mentally, because I really wanted to do it and I was so interested. But in terms of planning, if you've got any other kind of life, then you do have to make sure you've got enough space to do the study and to do the practice, and actually you can get the time to focus on it, because I think that can potentially be really stressful for people.
Okay. I remember when you passed and your group passed, and I remember thinking like how proud I was of not all of you, not you, but seriously how proud I was, because I could see the amount of effort people had put in to pass. And I mean, it's a big undertaking. It's a long chunk of time that you've got to remain focused on something. Yeah. So, I mean, you deserve a lot of credit for the amount of effort you put in. This is why when people pass, I don't take any credit. I say, I didn't do anything. Like, I opened the door for you, but you have to put the effort in.
Yeah.
Conversely, if you fail, it's not my fault either. You know?
Yeah, totally.
So, if I don't take any credit for you passing, I can't take any credit for people failing. It's down to how much, and what you said earlier, how much you wanted it. It was effortless because you wanted to be a yoga teacher, and I could see that. Hence why you're here. So a certain amount of dedication is needed if you want to be a yoga teacher, because it's not an easy process.
No. And I think you are going to go through periods in the teacher training you think, Christ, this is a lot of work, and you feel like a bit unmotivated, but then you do come out of it and you're ready to get back into it.
A lot of
it can be overwhelming.
A lot of our students have been through that. We get at least a couple who find that it's the management of time that becomes difficult.
That's it.
So if I know this is your interview, but if I could give anyone advice, it would be about trying to manage their time better. I mean, how did you find that process with having children as well?
I just had to plan ahead, really. So it was in the diary, all the dates were in the diary, and then once we knew when we were doing the exam and the thing, I had time slots where I had to do it. And then if I hadn't slotted it in there, I wouldn't have been able to do it, so I just had to.
So some of the group have got their assessment this coming week. Actually, this weekend, Friday they prep, and Saturday and Sunday they're up here. They're going to try and impress Chris and become qualified yoga teachers. What advice would you have for them for their performance? Because that's what it is. You're putting on a performance to try and impress the tutor, and to impress her enough that what you can teach is completely safe and effective. So his mum can come to your class, and she won't be able to do everything, but that's not the point. She'll be safe. So anyway, what is your advice for them?
I think if you've done what you guys have suggested that you do in your exam class.
Oh, you don't mean just listen to Akram and they'll be fine?
No, not just listen to Akram, but to do like what Chris has asked, because I think there's a bit of a degree of resistance to do exactly that, because like you said, you might want to get a bit creative. Is it boring? Etc. But if you stick to exactly that and you practice it a few times, I think it's just then knowing that it's going to be your other students doing it with you is a good sort of thought, because they're on your side. And also not overthinking it. Because I think once you've got it in your head, you just got to say, right, I've got it, and then... Almost like some people are aiming for a distinction. And it's just pass or fail. Exactly. So, once you've got it, you've gone through it a few times, you'll be fine.
How about the timings? How did you find? Did you find that you went through stages where you were going too quick, or?
Yeah.
And what did you do? Just.
I had little sections which I knew I could take out if we'd gone a bit fast. So yeah, I knew that when I checked my time, if I was a certain point, I should have been, I don't know, on the last standing posture.
Yeah, which is actually what Chris asks, isn't it?
Yeah.
She says at 15 minutes you should be.
Exactly.
Here. Okay.
So you've got 10 minutes for, I don't know, for stretches, and then sun sales I do for 15 minutes, and then standing and then seated. So if you've got it segmented a bit on your plan, it will be easier to just take bits out if you're running over. And you can always leave people in a pigeon for longer.
Yeah, it's very true.
For little bits.
That's a very good point. I was trying to explain to one of the girls the other day. I was like, there are some poses that you can leave them in.
Yeah.
Camel's not one of them.
No.
But you could say, anything which you consider a more passive stretch. So on a scale of 1 to 5, if it's a 1 or a 2, you can stay there a little bit longer. You can take your time. You can add in additional knee rolls and hugs and stuff.
You can do that. So just not to panic, because you just got to focus on the last 5 minutes.
And how was it when you passed? I mean, how was it? How did you?
I felt really relieved.
Yeah?
Yeah, really happy. Just relieved, because it's like a big thing. You really want to do well.
And how has it impacted your life since?
Oh, it's totally changed my life. It's all I think about is yoga.
You loser.
I know. No, it's great. I love it. It's the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
And what has significantly changed since you qualified? Since you started teaching. But in your first class, what's changed from the first class you taught since the class you taught last night, for example? What's been the most obvious, significant difference?
I'm definitely not nervous. I sometimes get a bit nervous.
Of course, apart from that.
Yeah, but I also feel that I'm able to tailor the class a lot more to who's in the room. Whereas when I started out, I was focused on the sequence. Was I going to get it wrong? Was I going to forget it? Were my lefts and rights going okay?
So it's like a natural, naturally you progress to.
Yeah. Whereas now, like yesterday,
better.
I had something in which I've realised that most of them wouldn't be able to do, so I was able to just take it out in my head and pop something else in. And that's actually better then, rather than charging through, making everyone do what you had planned, kind of feeling that it's not the best thing. But that was a gradual process. I guess you get more confident and you get more used to what people can do, so noticing how they move and thinking, that's not going to work, or perhaps putting something else in.
And how have you found your kind of job as a yoga teacher? What kind of teacher are you? Do you find that you spend most time teaching, sometime choreography? Is it a bunch, or do you have quite regulars where it's always? What kind of hat do you wear?
I think it's a mixture. It's definitely a mixture, and it also, I think, a lot depends on what I'm doing in my own practice, what I'm interested in. I might see then how people are doing it, and we might work on that a little bit. Or for instance, I asked you about the forward folds earlier. I've been noticing lately that the forward folds everyone's so different, so we've been stopping and working a bit on that, getting people more comfortable.
So you go through stages?
I go through stages.
Okay, great.
Which actually makes it more interesting for me, really, rather than just getting in there, running through it all in a sequence and then coming out.
What advice would you give someone who's thinking about doing the teacher training? Apart from do it, obviously, I was expecting you to just blurt that out instinctively.
If you're thinking about it and you're worried about all the different things that are stopping you do it, I would say if you really like yoga and you're interested to learn more, then it's a great thing to do. And even not worry so much about the teaching, but if you're interested in learning about yoga, then you'll find it easy and you'll enjoy it.
So you think some people might worry that they might not be able to teach?
Exactly, yeah.
But if you put that to one side, that will...
Your interest will overtake that, and then
because there's how many people, I mean, even on the course you were on, I mean, people always tell me this, and I know psychologically why they're telling me this. They always say, "Oh, Zahir, I'm doing the course, but I'm not here to teach." I just think, of course you're not. But towards the end of it, they can't wait because their confidence in their in who they are, their personality comes out, and they've realised, you know what, I can do this. If Zahir can do it, anyone can.
Exactly, everyone can do it. But yeah, that puts people off. The thought of standing up in front of a class and talking and being confident is a scary thing, isn't it?
So we're in July. Our new group starts in November. It's nearly full. So what advice would you give to those who know they're doing their teacher training in November and they've got 5 months to go?
I would say that do all your reading before you start.
What reading?
All the reading on the reading list.
All of it?
All of it, yeah. Just do it all. Even if you don't understand it, and then when you get to it, you've got that pressure out the way. You don't say, right, next week I've got to read a whole book because we're talking about that.
Yeah, sure.
That's what I did anyway, and I felt that was really helpful because I took some of the pressure off myself. And also you get a double understanding then because you've left it a bit and then you come back to it. Yeah, sure.
So apart from Zahir Akram's book, Madness or Meditation, which you can buy on Amazon, by the way, link below, what other book do you think was the key in understanding? Was it not The Science of Yoga that you showed me that time? There's that confused face I haven't seen for about 15 minutes.
I really liked the book What Stops You. What's that one? The Bernie Clark. Is that Bernie Clark? I like that.
I've no idea what you're talking about, but it's okay. We'll find it. Anything additionally that might have helped, like something you might have watched on YouTube or anything, or was it just literally going on reading the books and?
Yeah, I think just reading the books, and if you find one that is interesting to you, stick with that because a lot of it is kind of a bit over your head when you start.
Yeah.
Especially the philosophy, and it's a bit wacky to be honest if you don't know about any of that stuff.
We did a lot on philosophy. Actually, we didn't. It just seemed.
No, we just did.
One weekend.
One weekend, at the beginning.
Yeah, it was talking about Shiva and everyone. And in my book, the first half is all about philosophy as well, or lack of philosophy. How kind of relevant do you think that is anyway? I mean, what do you think as someone who would have found yoga philosophy foreign concept? What was it? How did you respond to it? What did you think?
I think it's interesting in terms of what everyone thinks yoga is and what we do as yoga, to know the difference and where it came from. That's interesting. I think it is relevant.
Yeah.
But it is, when I started, it was so far away from, I was just focused totally on the physical practice. I wanted to know how to do a triangle.
Yeah, sure.
Stuff like that.
Sure.
But it's become more interesting as I've gone on.
I think that's why we get it out of the way.
Yeah.
And it's important because I think, well, I do anyway, I try to plant a seed in your brain
that's it.
that will hopefully sprout fruits and flowers over time, rather than expecting you to understand first time. But the benefit with the new group is they have my book to read beforehand, which my book is literally a how did this interview become about my book, by the way? It's all about me, isn't it? It's a much on a larger scale what we discuss.
Totally. I noticed that when I was reading it. I thought, aha.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I just thought the book allowed me to have more scope and more time to elaborate on storytelling, which at times when we had our first weekend together as a group, when we were talking, I would look around and some people are like that.
It's really hard. First of all, you've got to get used to sitting on a block on the floor, and then you've got to listen to this stuff, so it's tricky.
Yeah, it is a bit hard, but it does make sense over time.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to understand because, there are people who leave a yoga teacher training, and I've had this with friends that I've met, that I've said, so what is the source of yoga, or who developed yoga? And they'll just look at me like that.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, you've heard of Shiva? And they're like, oh yeah. And they'll look at me strangely. And then I might mention Krishnamacharya, who is the kind of, I guess, the father of modern physical yoga. And they'll be like, who? The guy from the Bhagavad Gita. I'll be like, no.
See, it's quite confusing.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, these people haven't even been told anything. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but we're learning about yoga, and I think we should learn a little something about where it's at least come from. It's like, you know, you do a marketing course, the first thing I think you might learn about is how marketing developed in the 50s or 60s or whenever it was. Because if you can see the growth, you can see how it's changed.
Yeah.
And perhaps you can see why you do what you do now.
Yeah, totally.
So it is...
Oh yeah, you can't not have it in there.
So who is Shiva?
Now you put me on the spot.
Have I got something I can throw at you? There he is, right there.
Well, yeah.
What do you mean, yeah? This is what I have to put up with all the time. Right,
no more philosophy. Thank you.
Okay, so in general, you'd recommend teacher training?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with Akram.
Oh, of course. How can you go
No,
wrong?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I think I miss it. I think it was so good. It's something you never... Like, even if I do another teacher training, it will never be like your first yoga teacher training. It's really cool.
Oh, a bit like your first boyfriend.
Yeah.
You'll never forget him.
And you make good friends as well.
Oh, that was my next question.
Yeah, you do. Everyone's in the same boat, and it's really nice.
Yeah, and how was the group dynamics in terms of helping you all get through?
Yeah.
So I guess you need different people. You need group. And
you get all that. You get all the variants.
You were able to keep yourselves together though.
Yeah. We still got WhatsApp group now.
Yeah.
And it's just we're all friends. It's nice.
Okay. Well, I want to end this little chat, stroke interview by telling you genuinely how proud I am of you.
Ah, thanks, Akram.
When you first came, you were just this rubber-limbed, like just doing everything with no idea.
Yeah,
that's
pretty
not
much.
True, I'm joking. But now to see the kind of some of the compliments I get from some of the students as well, you know, and your classes are popular, so you've done amazingly well. And again, although I try my best as much as I can to help you constantly, you deserve all the credit for where you are because of the amount of effort you put into your teacher training and how much you wanted it, and also how much you want to continually grow as a teacher. Because although you pester me with questions all the time, even though you don't listen to the answers and you don't pay any attention, you're still inquiring, but you don't have to be. But you want to be because you're constantly trying to learn, and that is the key thing to being a yoga teacher. And again, that's why you're doing so well. So well done again.
Thanks very much. Not often you get a compliment from Akram.
No, and I might have to say something horrible now to balance it all out. Well done, Emma.